Welcome to our webinar on mobilizing citizen finance for renewables organized by the Interreg Europe Policy Learning Platform. Our objective today is, as usual, to exchange knowledge and experience between European regions and municipalities, and our audience consists of European policymakers at regional and local levels. Our audience, I think we have about 80 to 100 participants, have maybe listened to our series last week. And so I welcome everybody back, or the newcomers, welcome. I would like to ask if everything is working technically, because I do not see myself in the camera. Can you just confirm that video is correct?
Yes, we can see you, Katharina.
Okay, something's not right on my side, but if you can see me, then that's fine. My name is Katharina Krell. I'm a thematic expert with the Policy Learning Platform from Interreg Europe, and I'm here with my team members. There's Simon Hanken, also thematic expert from the Policy Learning Platform, and Lotte van Mijl, who's our web expert. So we're bringing this webinar to you this afternoon. A few words of technicalities. This webinar is being recorded. The recordings are going to be put online along with all the presentations. You will be emailed the link to these, as for last week's webinar. Unfortunately, we cannot listen to the audience, but you can interact with us and the speakers through the chat. Please don't hesitate to make use of it. And we will also use the chat to share relevant links with you. Okay, so today is the second webinar in a mini-series of 2 webinars on renewable energy financing, organized by Interreg Europe Policy Learning Platform. And last week, we have talked about third-party financing solutions for the public sector. And we have seen how powerful the bundling of individual small renewable energy projects into a larger bundle can be to bring down the costs and to create economies of scale, but also to create a larger investment volume. Next slide. And we can see how this is opening, next slide, up the opportunities to attract larger investors and even institutional investors. So that was the first series. We have specifically looked at how this technique is used in Portugal and in Extremadura for the refurbishment of public buildings with a combination of renewables and energy efficiency measures. And I invite you to explore the recordings that my colleague is sharing the link with you in the chat. So, but today we are speaking about enabling and motivating citizens to invest in local renewables, and a few words of introduction on this. So I come from the region of Baden-Württemberg in southwest Germany. Our house was built in '68 with an oil heating. We then changed to natural heating in 1990. And today we still pay the high prices for imported gas, and we wish we had a connection to a renewable energy district heating network. A neighboring community in the Black Forest called St. Peter has set up a citizen cooperative with the aim to become energy independent over a decade, almost 2 decades ago. Today, they have almost reached their goal. They have plenty of photovoltaics, some wind turbines, and most importantly, they have a biomass-powered district heating network that is connecting all buildings that were interested in getting connected. Now they have their own clean electricity and heat, powered by locally available renewables. They set up their own waste wood processing company to create wood chips for the CHP. They have created local jobs, revenues from the local companies, and they enjoy today very competitive prices for their energy and electricity. And I wish I was living there. So citizen-owned decentralized renewable energy is really great, and it has plenty of benefits, as our speakers will detail later, and they will also quantify it. Of course, individual homeowners can act independently, and they do so. Many invest in rooftop solar PV, and new homes come with renewable heating systems, etc. But we want to look today specifically at how to enable and mobilize citizens to invest in local renewable energy projects other than on their private homes. So many people don't have a roof where to put PV, they live in flats. We want to explore how public bodies can enable them to invest into renewables just the same. Now, to this end, we have invited 5 speakers. We start with a keynote, and I invite our speakers to turn on your cameras while I introduce you. We are very pleased to have Myriam Castanié from RESCOP Europe, that's the European Association of Renewable Energy Cooperatives, for a keynote on guidelines to reclaiming power. And then we enter into 4 case studies and good practices, starting with the UK. Alastair Mumford from Devon County Council is telling us how Devon ended up having more renewable energy communities than any other county in the UK. Then we're going to hear a new initiative from Hermagor region in Austria, from Daniela Schelch and Lorena Skiljan, who will present a one-stop shop model to support the setup of new renewable energy communities. Very interesting. Then we move to Germany, where Lars Rotzsche from the Stadtwerke Union, that's the municipal utility of Northern Hessen, is explaining how a public project developer is creating and developing projects and then seeding them for citizen investment and how this is bringing value for the region. And last but not least, we go to Malta and see how citizens that don't have a roof can have access to renewable energy investments on a public-owned reservoir. So this is going to be brought to us by Charles Yousif from the Institute of Sustainable Energy and Sandro Lauri from the Energy and Water Agency of Malta. Good. Before going into our keynote, I would like to ask the audience, is your administration making any efforts to support citizen investment into local renewable energy projects? Yes, no? Some support is under development, or maybe you don't know. Let's hear. Let's gauge a little bit the landscape, knowing that you're mostly coming from public bodies at regional and local levels. Okay, 45% say yes. Our administration is making efforts to support citizen investments in local renewables. That's good. And 25% say such support is under development. Great, thank you very much. So I would like to give the floor to Myriam Castanié for her keynote. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Katharina. I'll start with sharing my screen. That works, okay. All right, here we go. So hello, everyone. Thanks a lot for having me here today. I'm really happy to talk a little bit about community energy and how municipalities and regional authorities can support energy communities and participate in them. Maybe to give you a little bit of background of where I'm coming from, I work for RESCOP EU, which, as Katharina said, is the European Federation of Citizen Energy Cooperatives. We're a small team that was established in 2013, but as you can see, we represent quite a large amount of energy cooperatives and citizens across Europe in most of the European countries. And for those of you who may maybe be less familiar with cooperatives, they're usually groups of citizens who work together on energy transition projects within a legal form. And that can be with the support or even with the participation of a municipality, depending on the national legislation as well. Yeah, my name I already said. I'm a project manager at RESCOP EU. There's my email address for later in case you have any questions following the presentation, of course. So maybe to start, because I was invited on the basis of a guidebook that we developed for reclaiming power, so for bringing citizen energy back into the European landscape or pushing it further. And the question there is, why did we even bother doing this in the first place? Why do we think empowering energy communities is so important? There was a study carried out by TU Delft a few years ago that showed that in 2050, almost half of the EU's electricity supply could be produced by citizens. So we're looking at a massive potential here that could really help shift the, how do you say, bring a step change for the energy transition. But in order to do this, obviously, this is there's a lot of support needed because we're talking about groups of citizens that have financing in their bank accounts that they want to put somewhere. They have ideas, but oftentimes it's people like you and me who maybe haven't spoken so much about energy, learned so much about energy. So especially at the beginning, there's a lot of need for people to understand a bit better the landscape and see how they can really contribute to the energy transition. So in terms of the guidebook, I'll take you through a few pieces that are in the guidebook without going too much into every detail. But one of the important things is that there's a lot of reasons, obviously, to start or join an energy community project from a citizen's perspective. And people join for very different reasons. It can be because they care about the planet. It can be because they want to make a smart investment. It can be because they want to make the life in their own community better. They want to connect with people. There's a lot of different reasons. And in the end, we go in this guide, for instance, through a few of the reasons and see how you can think about what do the people in your community care about, and how are you going to get them interested in joining a community energy project or maybe starting one. So the guidebook itself is something that we made on the back of a lot of learnings that have come from energy communities that started many years ago. They're not a new concept. They started, I think one of the older ones and the largest ones in Europe is over 30 years old. Started with a few people around a kitchen table saying, oh, we would want to produce our own electricity. And a few years down the road, well, 30 overall, but by now they have over 60,000 clients and members, and they employ around 50 people. So it's something that started with a crazy idea 30 years ago from a few people and turned into something that nowadays is really a medium-sized enterprise. So yeah, the guidebook itself, again, I won't go into too much promotion here, but there's a lot of different chapters talking about different things, a lot of success stories. So it's something that I think is very useful to learn from. At least personally, I've always found these things the most useful. And there's a lot of resources that you can look at, also especially for municipalities and public authorities. I'll go through a few of them in a little bit. But it's basically a compendium of a lot of experiences that you can learn from and dive into. So to go a bit maybe into what you can find in there, one of the things that we say is always important to consider is the context within an energy community arises. So what are the reasons why people decided to start an energy community? There is, for instance, in Schönau in Germany, there's a group that said, we want to get away from nuclear power. And this is why they got together to buy up the local energy grid, actually, when it was up for sale. And they managed to do this, and they are operating it still nowadays. There is some that just want more energy independence overall. There were some that had this idea just to do things differently. So thinking about why do people want to do this, and also what will bring them in. Like in some cities, for instance, my neighborhood in my street, there's a huge building that's a social housing block, and there's a lot of energy poverty here. So you could think about, yeah, how can an energy community help these people have a better life, save on energy bills, and so on and so forth. Obviously, in terms of energy communities, there's different forms. Rescoop EU, we represent energy cooperatives mostly, but we also have members from different legal entities. And depending on the country, the legal entity will vary, and depending on what you want to do. So sometimes a trust form or a club might be more relevant. Sometimes a cooperative is the right way to go. There's all sorts of legal entities that you can find also in this guidebook and see a little bit what could maybe work best in your own context. Because I know that in some countries, municipalities or public authorities can join an energy cooperative, but in some places they cannot. So if you want to engage in an energy community as such, it's worth thinking about what would be the best form for you. Then in the book, there's also some information about how to grow your organization, really taking it from the idea to the actual project development and implementation. Lots of ways to keep your community going, because in the end, a lot of energy communities are mostly run through volunteers for a long time. I mean, the EcoPower example that I gave earlier is a very developed energy cooperative, and it takes a long time to get to that stage. So there's a lot of information there on how you can keep your group going and how you can acquire new members, work with other stakeholders, and so on. There's also information on the choice of activities. So energy communities nowadays, they do all sorts of activities, from solar production to heating production to clean mobility, even flexibility services. So the smart appliances, there's energy suppliers, energy efficiency activities. So there's a lot of inspiration in there to think about what could be an interesting activity for your own area. And the same looking if you choose to produce electricity or go for clean mobility or these sorts, looking at different technologies and considering what could be the advantages and difficulties around them. And then really moving beyond the idea and the concept phase, looking at how you can make it happen, developing the business plan, developing a financing concept, acquiring the financing. And there's often a role for collaboration between citizens and public authorities, but also companies that might be situated in the area. So there's a few examples in there on how you can do this. And one particular thing I wanted to focus on, because we're talking to public authorities today, is what role municipalities and local authorities and also regional authorities can play in the context of energy communities. So one of the things is to create favorable regulations for citizen and community energy. And maybe to give you an example, in Scotland, there was a scheme called the CARE scheme, where the Scottish government gave grants to citizen projects to be able to do, for instance, a feasibility study for their project, because this is often something that blocks citizens, especially at the beginning. If you're a group of people that decided we want to do this, and then all of a sudden you're confronted with the costs for acquiring a permit for doing a feasibility study, that's very difficult. And this is often something where citizen initiatives get stuck. And so the Scottish government said, okay, we're going to give you a grant to get over those first stumbling blocks. And if your project turns into reality, it turns into a loan, and you're going to pay us back over time once the project is paid back. And if it doesn't work out, that's fine, then it remains a grant. So this is, I think, a very good example of how you can support citizen initiatives. Then one of the very straightforward things, obviously, raising awareness. A lot of citizens find the concept of energy very complicated. It's always with those big utilities far away. We don't really understand our electricity bills and so on. So contributing to or helping your citizens understand better how the energy market works and why it's maybe not such a scary, strange thing can also really help get them into the topic and feel more empowered to take action. Then another very straightforward thing, if there is a community energy project in your area, you could buy electricity from them or the heat from them for your public buildings. That's another way to support. Financing and guaranteeing projects. So it ties a little bit into favorable regulations in a way, but another thing also when a community energy project wants to get a loan. So if they've gone through all the permitting stages and the feasibility study and so on, and they actually want to buy the wind turbine, sometimes it's really hard for a group of citizens to get a loan from a bank because they may not have the credit score that they need, and there a public authority can come in as well and provide the backing for a citizen project to come through. Another way to support is by sharing municipal staff and resources. So for instance, leaving a meeting room for a local energy community that they can use for their community meetings, maybe even having a person within your own staff that can support them a little bit, help them through, I don't know, legal questions or administrative questions. Another way is to just develop supporting platforms and tools. This always really depends on what's needed in a local community, but there's a lot of support that municipalities and regional authorities can offer there as well. Facilitating dialogues between local stakeholders. There's obviously in a city, whether it's urban or rural, in whatever agglomeration, there's a lot of different stakeholders, and they might have more or less contact with each other, and they might have more or less good relationships with each other. And a municipality can there, for instance, take a really good role in facilitating a dialogue and bringing people together, because sometimes you might have a group of citizens that says, oh, we would really, I don't know, we would really like to put a wind turbine on a farm somewhere, but we don't really have contacts there. And maybe the municipality does and is able to bring them together with a farmer that might have the land and that might be interested in participating. And last but not least, again, depending on the legal form that an energy community has, you can actually become a member of an energy community. So these are a few examples, and you'll find more in that guidebook in case you're interested. And of course, if you're interested in hearing more, don't hesitate to get in touch. We've been working with local authorities and regional authorities for quite a long time, because in our view, this is the best way to make these things happen. Maybe another thing, just to let you know, some of you might already be aware, since a few years, there's the Clean Energy for All Europeans package, which actually from the European Commission gives energy communities a real role in the energy market. And there's two definitions, renewable and citizen energy communities, that basically now national governments have to put in place into their own legislation and support enabling frameworks for energy communities. And there is a recent initiative from the Commission that's been launched to really dedicate resources to supporting energy communities, the Energy Communities Repository. And it actually has a sister project as well, the Rural Energy Communities Advisory Hub, which is going to focus more on rural communities. So the two projects really go together. That is going to provide technical assistance to energy communities, provide twinning opportunities, capacity building workshops, but also establish a map with good practices, with tools, with impact assessment as well. So you can get a better idea also of what kinds of things can energy communities do, like how much energy have they produced, how much energy have they saved, what impact do they have also on the electricity system, these kinds of things. We don't have a website yet. Actually, Rescue.eu is involved in the Energy Communities Repository. The website is under construction, but I'm happy to share contact details there as well. That's it for me. I hope I stayed within the time, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Myriam. Very interesting to learn about this repository. I can't wait to see this online. What's the time frame for that?
Sorry, I had to unmute. So the calls for technical assistance are going to be launched towards the end of June this year. And we'll have several cutoff dates for applications, so that there's a few opportunities at which energy communities can apply for technical assistance. The website will be live around the same time. And then, yeah, throughout the rest of the year, we'll also publish a toolbox, a map of energy communities, best practices. And in the next year, there'll also be more information on policy analysis. So looking at how are the respective frameworks in each country, some guiding documents also that already exist for municipalities, and we might develop new ones depending on what we feel is missing.
Exciting. And what kind of entities can apply? Do they have to have already a legal entity of a community organization, or could it also be like a group of citizens that is still at the start?
We're still developing the program, so I can't give you the final answer yet, but basically the idea is that we can support groups at different stages of development. So it can be an informal group of citizens if they are really committed to getting this done, all the way through to an established legal entity, but we want to make sure that we support as many different types of groups as we can.
Excellent. Well, keep us in the loop. Thank you very much for your keynote. I have a question for our audience. I would like to know, what do you think motivates your region and municipality to encourage citizen investment into local renewable energy projects? So do you think the public bodies encourage citizen investment to help meet renewable energy targets, or maybe to keep the value in the region and create local jobs, or to help citizens fight energy poverty and access energy at an acceptable cost? Is it to gain energy autonomy? Or maybe is it a good tool to build citizen acceptance of local renewables? Let's see, just click. You can click on multiple. I want to see more answers. Okay, the trending answer with almost 60% is to help citizens access energy at cost, and by that fight energy poverty. I think this is because of our context of very high energy prices, but all the other reasons to gain energy autonomy is the second, to help meeting local renewable energy targets is the third, and to create jobs comes in only fourth. Interesting. Thank you very much for your opinions. And let's move to our case studies now. Let's hear a little bit from the UK now. There's a lot of community energy going on in the Devon County Council, and Alastair Mumford from the council is going to explain us how that came and what has happened in the last years. Alastair, the floor is yours.
Okay, so I think
10 minutes, huh?
Oh, I thought it was 8. There we go, extra time.
Okay, good. You can do it in 8. That's fine.
That's right, great.
Go ahead.
No worries. Thank you, Katharina, and thank you for the opportunity to speak today. So yes, my name's Alastair Mumford. I work for Devon County Council. So we're a local authority in the southwest of England, and we've been a keen supporter of the community energy sector. So Devon has been leading the way in terms of community energy organisations in the UK. So we've got 23 active in the area, and that's more than any other county. Well, that was correct back in 2019, and I can't see it having been changed. So the reasons for that, then, I'd like to say it's all down to Devon County Council, but no, I don't think that would be correct. So in the UK, we had a movement called the Transition Town Movement. That started in Devon in a lovely little town called Totnes, and sort of expanded across the country. And that was essentially all around responding to the climate emergency and also sort of local economic, trying to invest more in the local economy as well, and et cetera, et cetera. So I think Devon probably does have a number of citizens who are engaged in the climate emergency debate. And maybe that has helped to create all of these community energy organisations. Also, possibly Devon, although it does have quite substantial areas of deprivation, but there are a number of areas and probably people who have a sort of semi-affluent type thing. And also, you know, we get reasonable weather down here, so maybe we get more retired people than maybe other areas. So maybe that sort of came together to give us maybe a bit better a foundation than maybe some of the other areas, because of course all of those community energy organizations rely on volunteers. Very few of them, if any, have paid members of staff, but I can come on to that later on. So in terms of what Devon County Council have been doing, so thankfully, we have we're a Conservative-led administration, so right wing, you might say, and they've been very keen on supporting community energy from the start. So politically, for them, they saw this as being good because it was enabling community energy organisations to do things themselves, to be self-reliant, and that was sort of a key key aspect. And it's economic, you know, they saw it about more money going into the economy. So politically, we got support, and that then meant that officers were able to secure monies to provide grants. So we provided small grants to community energy organisations, and we've done that over a period of time. We've also paid contractors to provide training for community energy organisations as well, again, over a period of time. And that's really helped to build the skills and enable them to carry out assessments, pre-feasibility studies, as we were talking, to get projects going. But one of the other key aspects of this that came in the Labour government some time ago was the social enterprise investment scheme, essentially tax breaks for people investing in certain types of investments. And so that meant that when it was combined with the subsidies for renewables, which previously were very high, that you had quite an attractive offer for investors. So interest rates on share investments of sort of 5, 6, 7, 8%, and with these tax breaks as well. So it was a sort of perfect storm, really, that happened. And so we've had a lot of renewables invested. So as you can see from this slide, you know, total investment just in Devon in community-owned renewable schemes, because it's mainly renewables, 14.1 million by 2018. That's shares worth of 5.5 million. They provided loans of about 8 million, and they've received grants of about 509,600, most of which from Devon County Council. But not only, the government has been providing grants for feasibility studies, but unfortunately that stopped. So the challenge we've got at the moment is that since all of that support and since all of that growth, everything's flatlined because of the removal of subsidies for renewable energy. Oh, and just sorry, one thing. So obviously we're talking about energy renewables here. But one of the other things that's starting to grow is that Devon County Council is contracting with community energy organisations to deliver energy efficiency support. But I know our main focus is on renewables today. So anyway, so we've had this flatlining in subsidies. Sorry, the flatlining in deployment. Subsidies have moved away, the tax breaks have moved away, so there's no longer these fantastic interest rates that we can offer, and that has massively stopped deployment across the board. Obviously it's starting to increase a bit now because of wholesale prices, energy prices going up, but still it's a difficult sell in some ways. The previous speaker spoke about what could policy organisations, councils do, and they could buy electricity from community energy organisations, and that would be a great way to get that deployment going. But we have a challenge in terms of public procurement regulations. Obviously ours are UK public procurement regulations now, but they're mainly, and previously they were EU, and they're about the same. And that causes problems when we want to do a restrictive procurement. We can't say, okay, we would like to get our electricity from a local Devon-based organisation, and we can't also say we want it to come from a community-owned organisation. That wouldn't match with public procurement regulations. And I can totally appreciate why they've come about, but in this situation, it's very frustrating. So that's where we start to think, all right, how could we get local energy being financially connected with the public sector? And so that brought us to synthetic power purchase agreements. So it's a lovely bit of jargon, and it doesn't really say anything about what it is, but anyway, it's the jargon out there, because it's a financial instrument. It doesn't need to be procured. So you can just enter into an agreement with somebody. And essentially what you have is a slightly different relationship, basically. So we've got this diagram here. So with Devon County Council in the bottom right. So we would carry on getting our energy from whoever the supplier was. It's no longer npower, but anyway, so we would just carry on buying our electricity through a framework as we currently do. But we would enter into an agreement with a community energy organisation and say to them, okay, what's the minimum price you need for the electricity generated? So we would agree a strike price. And essentially in return for ensuring that that generator gets that minimum price, we would take the renewable energy guarantees of origination, REGOs, essentially a certificate, a bit of paper, which enables us to be able to say, we can use that in our carbon management, in our carbon balancing. And the generator just sells the electricity to the grid. And so that what happens is, this is completely incorrect now because it's gone like that. But anyway, this is energy prices. So if the energy price that the generator gets from the wholesale market is below the market rate, Devon County Council would top it up. If it goes over the market, sorry, the strike price, the wholesale price goes over the strike price, then Devon County Council gets the money. So financially, we've modelled it and it looks quite good. It's risky, but it does look quite good. The confirmation for us about doing this is we've done a socio-economic assessment of the community sector, and I think the previous speaker was sort of talking about the benefits. There's a whole host. We've got a report. There's if you go to the link below, you can find that. But essentially, that concluded that community-owned renewable energy delivers £15.9 million additional compared to more commercial terms. So Devon County Council, I can argue with the policymakers and say, look, we should do this. It's going to be cost neutral, might make us a bit of money, but it delivers a load more for the community and it helps us with our carbon emissions. So that's where we're trying to get to. You know, community energy can definitely deliver at scale. We've just got to create the environment for it. Previously, that was subsidies. Now it needs to be novel contracts that are there. And yeah, the whole host of benefits that can be delivered really makes it an essential piece of work for any policy organisation. Katharina, I'm sorry I have gone over time, but anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you, Alastair. Well, I hope there were some UK participants who could enjoy your synthetic power purchasing agreement scheme. I think this is something UK specific that you've designed there. I've never encountered it.
It started in America. And there's one or two in the UK, but no, it's a, as I say, it's just a model of agreement. It can be used anywhere, absolutely anywhere. So,
well, it's the first time I hear about it. Thank you for sharing.
Sorry, it's also called contracts for difference, is another way that it.
Oh, yes, the CFD. Yes. There we go. Yes, but I know it from bigger developments. I have never seen it applied to community energy. This is why I find it novel and refreshing. Thanks for sharing that.
No problem.
Alastair, how do you see the perspective of new renewable investments now that the energy prices are going up? Is there going to be new impetus?
Yeah, so I am a director of a community energy organisation as well, a volunteer, and yeah, it's looking better now. So I think, yeah, but it's still not as good as if it a subsidy, because of course, who knows what the wholesale price is going to be like next year, and power purchase agreements 20 years long. So it's enabling us to start the conversations, but it's still, whether it's reducing the risk of getting somebody to sign a PPA, that's more difficult to say.
Myriam, do you have any questions to Alastair?
Well, I was wondering if like there was a question earlier about budgets that subsidies or other types of support from public authorities could come from, and looking at the compensation of the REGOs, maybe how did you organize this with your internal budget? How do you manage to prioritize this maybe over other things?
Okay, so I think that the good news is that Devon County Council, along with a lot of other public sector organisations, have declared climate emergency. So that's probably something that's happened across Europe as well. So we have that. Okay, we're going to be net zero by 2030. Slowly but surely, more and more people are working out, oh, that's going to cost quite a bit of money. And so this synthetic power purchase agreement, because we can argue that the agreement is creating additional renewable, and then through this taking of the REGOs, we can then use that in our carbon management. And the argument is basically, if we don't do this, we're going to have to offset or reduce emissions. Both of those are going to cost a lot more than this. And we also get all of the benefits that we were talking about there. So really, it's a bit of a no-brainer. However, of course, it's based on future energy prices. And so there is an element of risk there. And we need to, and that's why people like me don't get to make the decisions, and I have to argue for it. The other thing as well is it acts as a partial hedge. So if wholesale prices go up, then we would make money through the synthetic power purchase agreements. And of course, our own energy costs would go up, but we'd be making money. So there's a bit of and vice versa. So there's a bit of a management of that risk as well. But mainly it comes down to, you look at any projection of the cost of carbon offsetting, and yeah, it's ludicrous numbers. So.
Thank you very much. Okay, great. So that is looking back to the past energy communities and looking to today. And I want to move to Austria, where in the Hermagor region, there is an initiative to support newly set up energy communities, let's say. So we're just at the start, and we can witness here from our two speakers from public bodies, Daniela Schelch and Lorena Skiljan, how, let's say, the public sector is trying to support the setup through a very interesting concept. So first, Daniela, and then Lorena. The floor is yours. 10 minutes, please.
Hello, thank you. Yes, my name is Daniela Schelch. I'm from Austria, from the district of Hermagor. We are in the south of Carinthia. My field of work is project management with a focus on sustainability and renewable energy. So I work for an association of municipalities. That means for the public sector. We have 9 municipalities in our region, and we have a cooperation with the tourism region. We are about 21,000 inhabitants, and the region is called Nassfeld, Liesachtal, Weißensee. The next, please. So our big project is named On the Way to Being the Most Sustainable Tourism Destination in Austria. So we started 2016 with a project. It's named Climate and Energy Model Region. That's especially for Austria. It's a funding from the Ministry of Climate and Environment. So we get fundings. 2019, we started an energy data collection about our region. So that's very important to get local strategies and guidelines for sustainability. So that's where we are building on our concept with 10 measures. And since July, we are in the implementation. So we have 1 million euros funding and 3 years time for the implementation. So my part is to bring the public authorities together with the people and the inhabitants. That's very important because we have the funding, and 30% of this budget is paid by the public sector. So they have really they have a big responsibility to ensure the energy supply for the people. And I'm organizing roundtables, workshops, working groups, and I'm bringing the decision makers together. That's very important because you can't implement an energy community without the public authorities in the municipalities. So you need the regional and the local authorities. A big thing is for us, we have also the human resources. So we have 70 working hours with 2 women which are working for the region management, and that's really short time because it's a big thing to implement renewable energies in the municipalities. And on this stage, we have partners and experts, and one of them is Lorena Skiljan, and she will talk about the energy communities and how they can be built in our region. Thank you very much.
So thank you, Daniela. So here I'm taking over. We are partnering with Daniela and with the region since very beginning of the Renewable Energy Communities project. So I think I need to share my presentation. Yes, okay. So I hope everybody can, just a second. Oh yeah. That was not too quick. Okay, so I will just jump directly into the topic. So we are I'm from the Nobel Group. I'm the founder, and we are supporting a lot of municipalities, but also tourism regions, and also some SMEs by establishing renewable energy communities. We have a legal framework in Austria since July. Since July 2021. So in terms of that, we are very young by providing these type of models. Also, it needs to be to say that the Austrian market is a very concentrated market. So the utilities have an enormous power in Austria. They have a market share of over 80%. each one of them in their market. So they have over 80% of market of supply of not only electricity but also heating. So this is actually the big wall that is standing in front of us are really the Austrian utility. It's hard way to take, but nevertheless we are doing that together with Daniela and with the region. So just shortly to show by a picture how does our system actually look like today. So on the left side you see it's a top-down system. We have one central power. So this is the utility. This central power is producing energy, no matter electricity or heating energy, and is then transporting that way to the last household in the country. So in Austria, we have like 7 ranges of electricity networks, starting with the TSO and then going to the DSO network. So we are really transporting energy over a big ways, and everything is very top down, very centralized. And yes, so in the future, we want to establish the renewable energy communities. And as we see, we all can have smaller assets. We can all within the region, within the community, exchange the energy. And first, after we have some energy that is too much, probably in the noon when all the PV is producing, then we are giving up the energy out of our community to the utility, for example, or to some industry. And the other way around is also working the same. First, when we all cannot satisfy our consumption, for example, in the night, because we don't have enough storage systems, because they are still too expensive for business case to be accounted. First, then we pull the energy from the grid as a community and need some energy from the energy supplier. What actually, how we do that? Well, we, as of course, as our colleague from RESCOP, and we are member there, of course, in the first beginning said, you really need to take the citizens and to take the participants and to guide them the whole way over. Why? I was really a long time, I was thinking about why is it like that? Because consumers in every other area of their life, you know, they're really they have the information, they know what they want, they know where to get the information, where to get the product, and are very keen on that. But at the energy, you know, there is very less knowledge, there's very less capabilities to do something. And then I actually, at one moment it came to me, of course, we will be conditioned for the past 100 years since we have like energy supply. Please just don't do anything. Once a year you will get the bill, then you can get a little bit of high, oh my God, it's a bill, oh my God, and then it's forgotten for the next 364 days. And now from one day to another, we are expecting from these people to have interest, to have knowledge, to have the information, to know what they want, what's the right, what's the wrong thing. And till now, it was just lay down and once a year you will get a bill, and that's everything. And on the other hand, you come home, you just push the button and everything is working. So actually, what should be my motivation to start engaging, to have all this, you know, what I need to do? And this is why we said, okay, this is the right thing to do. We need to come away from this centralized top-down system. It's just not more the way we live. And the younger generations even more, they're not ready to accept this centralized top-down systems in one hand. So this is why we have like a plan how to do a one-stop shop for the energy communities in Austria, to guide them, to help them, and to bring them to the right solution for them, because every energy community is specific. We have electricity, we have heating, we have different possibilities. So what we have done, we are always starting our energy community with a simulation. So we are just not, you know, putting out PV or any type of different assets and then thinking, yeah, this will work somehow. No, it won't. This needs to be simulated. The demand side needs to be brought together with the supply side. And you know, you need to take care of the loads to see, okay, I have a good system, and it's also a business case. This case is accountable. So if you don't start with the simulation, later on, the people can ask you, okay, why am I actually paying more than within the utility, or this system is actually not what I was expecting, there is no savings or whatever. So this is why this simulation is really very important. So what we do, and this is what we did together with Daniela, within 2 municipalities, Hermagor and St. Stephan, but also with the skiing resort Nassfeld with over 150 kilometers of slopes. So this is what we do. We are doing their multiply scenarios. So we are looking what type of assets do we already have in the region. So for example, the skiing resort has a hydropower plant, a small one, only I think are 3.5 MVs, but still it's a capacity, it's a present asset, it's perfect. And then we start, you know, simulating, starting with the hydropower plant, putting some PV, but also some vertical wind power, because, you know, the skiing region is a little bit difficult because of the snow. So you would really need to be very careful what type of assets you put there. So this is what we do. Then we are simulating these scenarios. We consider different conditions and frameworks which are within each one of municipalities. And we are adapting the simulation until we get the targeted rate of self-supply and the self-sufficiency degree. So all our energy communities that we are planning, they have a self-supply degree or rate over 80% and self-sufficiency degree of more than 30%. And if we reach that, we know it's accountable and it's a business case. So there are going to be savings, and also the ROI or on the assets is growing, and it's partially also double-digit ROI. And this is actually not usual within the renewables, because you have a ROI in normal cases, all business model of 2 to 3% max. So this is what we are reaching by simulating the energy flow, the demand on the supply side. And then we set up the financial planning and the tariff structure, because we have a tariff structure. You know, the citizens need to know, what do I pay for electricity in the future? We need to bill that, and we also need to know what are the people who are bringing in the assets actually getting for their kilowatt hours. So this is the tariff system. We need to do that. Then we have our Elene platform, which we are providing to the energy communities, because, you know, without having some digital solutions today, nothing is working anymore. So this is where we do monitoring, processing, and visualization of energy community in real time. So once it's established, and we are bringing the energy community the whole way over. So we are supporting them on the legal advisory, you know, how to establish what's the right form. In Austria, you need to have a legal form so you need to be a limited company or cooperative or something like that to be able to be an energy community. We do for them the financial accounting for 20 years or 25, depending on the duration of the asset, and so on and so on. And once established, we really do this monitoring, processing, and visualization.
Lorena, time.
Thank you. We are presenting the asset, the member energy flows. We have different functionalities, and of course, we are improving a large-scale awareness and successful management of the community. Then, and this is also very important for today, we have a Sonnenbank, like a sunny bank, translated in English, and this is our crowdfunding platform. So together with the Ministry of Environment and Energy in Austria, we founded the Sonnenbank, and this is just a crowd investing platform. So no matter which asset you want to finance, you don't need to go to the bank. The crowd, the Austrians, will finance your PV, your small hydro, and your wind turbines. So this is what we do, and it's working really, really great. Also, we have some energy communities which are under UNESCO. So you may not put PV on the rooftops or anything on these buildings. And this gives also these citizens the possibility to crowd invest the PV somewhere and then to become a member of an energy community. So this was great. And then after all this is said and done, we have our Greening the Communities platform. So this is where we do facilitation and dissemination and replication of renewable energy communities in all EU. And we are just now working on a funding with Horizon for a project, ILCOR, where we want to go with energy communities on all European islands, starting with Norway and over Germany to the Greece. And I hope we will get the funding so that we can, start doing that too. This is a little bit how this works. So you always need to start with awareness building, community activation, and multi-stakeholder dialogue. Otherwise, this just don't work. They are not interested, just, don't care, leave me alone. Citizen, local businesses, and local authorities is what we may do in Austria. And then we are analyzing the barriers in each one of the regions. We are reflecting current business models in Europe, also with Rescope and all of the players. And then we are slowly starting and then starting running. And after the running, we are planning the next phase. And now I'm really coming to the most interesting part, just to see the effect of a energy communities. These are actually, this is what you get when we start simulating it. So you can see in every, so I put some examples. We have an urban district, we have a big municipality and small municipality. So you can see you have on the left side always the consumption, and on the right side, the local production. And this is actually in Vienna a case. So if you can see here, they are producing like 4.5 gigawatts per year, and everything what's yellow is what they are consuming directly in the building, and then the blue one, it's what is consumed from this production within the energy community. So this part without the energy community will go into the grid. And this is what the energy community does actually better. So here we have a self-consumption rate of 99% only because of the energy community. And if you look at the demand side, so the yellow one, again, is what I consumed in the building, rooftop PV, my building. Then this is what each building is consuming, or the buildings are consuming out of the energy community. So it corresponds with this part here. And the blue one is still what they need for grid. So what is here actually to be said is you need more assets, then the dark blue part will be smaller, 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 and you will have more savings and you will be even more renewable. And this is actually the message. And you see what they actually do. They have with this 4.5 gigawatt of production per year, it corresponds, for example, with 91,800 trees annual CO2
Lorena,
retention.
sorry.
No problem. You can have my slides, and I will be very, very happy to go even more into a deep dive, but you can see even more. Everything was in this color. This is the energy community, and without the energy community, this energy would go into the grid, and we wouldn't use it locally, we wouldn't use it in the right way. So we see in all our simulations, energy community makes so much sense. It's just great. It's just great, and we should really go for it and do more and do it properly by simulating it, and not by just providing, but just providing assets without really thinking how the demand and supply side would come together. I have also a wrap up.
No, stop.
But I won't. I just say there is a wrap up side. You can have it. I provide it to everybody. But I think this is the most important one. Thank you so much. Sorry for extending.
Well, thank you very much. I think your one-stop shop approach to help the initial setup of energy communities is really amazing. And this is also why I exceptionally allowed you a little longer now as a punishment for exceeding the time. You have to look in the chat and respond in writing to the questions that there are to you, because there are some for you.
Perfect. So thank you, Katharina.
I think this is really like a carefree package that you're providing for energy community setup. And right. I just want to hear how transferable this is. Is this platform designed for Hemagor? Can you use it in all Austria? And
no.
Can it be used in other European countries?
No, so we are using it also Austria-wide. Our best cases are at the moment Hermagor and Nassfeld, the skiing resort. And, you know, once we start, we will also bill over the platform and do energy community services and everything they need and they want to have. We would like to, if we get the Horizon Isle Core for all European islands, we will provide the one-stop shop and the platform there. So we are really ready to target the whole European Union. Here and there, we will need to do some adjustment due to the national regulation, but I'm a lawyer, so no problem. And this is the way how we approach. But actually, yes, we would love it to provide it because we are working the past 3 years. So we are actually believing in energy communities much longer than we have the legal framework in Austria. So we were developing the simulation tool because it's really energy. So we have like real-time loads behind simulating, so it's really hardcore energy simulation. It's not just funny, it's really hardcore, and also the billing platform and everything. So we have some functionalities that are really hard in development. So yes, we did it to roll it out in whole Europe because this is the only thing that makes sense.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
We will share your slides. There will be also your contact details. You can get ready maybe to be contacted from some of our participants.
I would love to.
Super.
Thank you so much for the possibility, and I'm in the chat, muting myself.
Thank you, Lorena, Daniela. I apologize to the participants, but yeah, you see this enthusiastic lady had to finish her presentation and now she will attend to your questions. Reply please to all so that everybody can read, not just like on a one-on-one. And it is time to move to Hessen now. And here we're having a case of the public body. It's the municipal utility, the Stadtwerke Union of North Hessen. And we have Lars Rotzsche here. Lars, the floor is yours. Please try to be a little bit more on time than the two ladies before you, okay?
Okay, fine. So thank you for the opportunity.
And Can you make full screen?
So do you see my slides?
Yeah, but not full screen.
Just one moment.
Yes, great.
So right now. Okay, so I would like to tell...
Excuse me, can you go to Anzeige? We see still two screens now.
I see, okay.
Lovely, thanks.
So better. Yeah, I would like to introduce you to our cooperative wind farm development to create regional added value in Northern Hesse. So who are we? We are the utility of Kassel, a town of almost 200,000 inhabitants in the center of Germany. And in our town, borders inside Kassel, we don't have any chance to build wind energy turbines because our hilly sites are in the UNESCO World Heritage Park of Wilhelmshöhe. So no chance to build wind energy turbines. And then we were obliged to show up at the neighbor communities and to ask the mayors of the neighbor communities if they would admit to erect wind energy turbines. And they said, well, we can imagine, but you have to give us a participation. And that was the initial point. And then we developed a model. And in this model, we, in the recent years, we erected several wind turbines, so several wind farms, in all, more than 100 megawatt. And we have another wind farm with 100 megawatt in construction and some other projects in the development process. So the way we were going forward is to consider all those stakeholders around all wind farms. So we as Städtische Werke, we are the project developers, and we have to involve the citizens, and we encouraged some citizen energy cooperatives to get established, because we showed up and said we want to participate with the energy cooperative as soon as the wind farm is finished and turning and operating, because the erection and the planning process is a risky process. It's not the job for any citizen energy cooperative to do this risky job. And a lot of projects die on the way to the building permission, mostly because of nature preservation reasons. And so therefore, then also we have this important stakeholders of the municipalities around us. And we are cooperating in the SUN network. SUN is the abbreviation of Stadtwerke Union Nordhessen. We are all in all 6 utilities, small utilities, and in these utilities networks, we are doing our wind farm development. So this is the example shown on one of our best practice wind farms in Stiftswald, which is close to Kassel. So Städtische Werke is the project developer. We are doing the risky job to get the building permission. And as soon as the project is established, we ask the citizen cooperatives and the municipalities to become part of our to become stakeholders. And this is now the example. The same wind farm, the same society, Windpark Stiftswald GmbH and Co. KG. So we are 12 shareholders. We, as the developers, we reduced our shares from 100% to 1/3 of the shares. So we still have 33% of the shares, and 66% of the shares we sold to the Bürgerenergie Kassel-Söhre, which is one energy cooperative. And this is Stadtwerke Eschwege, which is another small utility. This is another energy cooperative, here. So all in all, 6 energy cooperatives with approximately 3,000 members of our area in Northern Hessen. They are the shareholders of this wind farm, and it makes fun because they give us a good backwind for the wind power in this area. And this is again to explain what is the SUN, because the SUN, we founded the SUN, the cooperative of the 6 utilities of Northern Hesse, in order to create renewable energy supply in this area. And our aim is to supply about 80% of renewable decentral energy, of wind and solar energy, and even biomass. And we are on a good way, because if we supply our region by 80% of renewables out of our hands, we can get a revenue of 300 million euro per year because of this energy production out of our area. So that's one of the most important strategies, and that's the way 2012 we carried out this study, which showed with the University of Kassel that there is this potential to first to supply more renewable energy in this area than it is needed in this area, and to get even a regional added value. And then in 2016 we carried out a study because we had to notice that some landowners, for example, or mostly the most sites in our area are hilly but forestal sites. The most sites are in forests because we have 42% of our landscape covered by forests. We are a very green forest area in northern Hessen. And then most of these sites were in the ownership or are in the ownership of the state forest authority of the federal country of Hessen. And they had, yeah, and then we were making this study to show which is the perspective to get the regional added value if a local project developer like we do, like we are, does the project together in cooperation with the local stakeholders, as I showed before, so our citizen energy cooperatives and so on, compared with with the view of an external project developer who would just develop the project to get the building permission and then sell the project to any investment company, and which would not give shares of this wind farm to the local cooperatives. So this was the study, and the study carried out that in the sun model, so in the center column, you see the sun model, we pay to the state authority 6 million euro of land lease rent in 20 years. And then we have the investment with locals, we have the industry taxes for the municipalities, and we have the income for the regional investors, as they are our energy communities, our municipalities. And we have also those 3,000 private citizens who are members of the cooperatives. They all have a revenue. And we also have our income, our revenue. So in all, it's 58 million. And this is compared to the revenue or to the regional added value if the external investor would develop and operate the wind farm, and no one in the region would participate except getting a little bit of industry taxes and also having a little investment for the construction in the construction time. So this is the big difference. It makes the big difference if the sun as a project developer and operator contributes by in the operating phases with the communes, with the regional economy, construction and plant builders. And for even the biggest process is the citizen in these energy cooperatives and local banks. So this is a sum of 58 million compared to 7 million, 8 times more regional added value under this local project development than if you would give a land lease contract to an external developer. So this is the regional the result that I already pointed out. So the central result is also municipalities need to be participating actively in wind park projects to make sure that all citizens can profit either directly or indirectly. Financing through citizen funds is additional option to optimize the regional added value, and it's necessary that regional investors are operators and they are bound in long-term engagement. And that's for us as a utility, it's no question, because wind farms, they are our power plants. And we want to use them and to operate them as long as possible, because we want to get rid of fossil fuels. And therefore this is our very, very important aim. And another okay, soon finished. When the landowners give land lease contracts, they don't have to look for the highest rent, but they have to look for the most acceptance promoting operator concept with citizen participation, with local participation, because we have to acknowledge that the European Union state aid guidelines, they force public owners to lease according to the highest rental income and not according to the best citizen energy concepts. This is a problem if you want to make a land lease contract with a state authority or state owner of a forest, for instance, then this has to be changed. So now I'm at the end, and I would like to get your questions.
Thank you very much, Lars. So the comment on the state aid, maybe that goes to Myriam, and maybe you can take it into your discussions at the European level. I think it's a big barrier. Lars, I think this is a very, very good model of de-risking projects. I mean, of course, a wind farm development is more risky than some photovoltaic projects, and it takes longer and it takes more money and more time to go through the permitting procedure, and it's more risky. So I think it's amazing that you as a public developer take on this risk, and then when the project risk is low and the permits are there and it's time and the project is mature, invite citizens to take over ownership. I want to know how big is your team and what skill profiles do you have in the team?
Okay, so my team we are 5 wind farm developers. But we have a group of, so we are working together with the financing experts in our utility. We are working together with the economical experts to make, for instance, participation prospects and so on. So we have a smart and a small team, and we get a lot of questions from other utilities, and we are ready to help even other utilities in Germany or even abroad to establish a project development like that. And our skills, as I already pointed out, we are engineers, we are economists, we are a forester. We have a studied farmer, so economical engineers. We are a good team and with different skills.
I think this is very interesting. Another German region recently complained to me that they have the wind resources. No local investor. Everything has been invested by some foreign investor who reaps all the benefit, and that's it. Yeah, so I would like to connect you maybe in the future. Just another question. This revolving fund that you use to develop the projects, where does this money come from?
Okay, we have for this wind farm that I showed you as an example, the total investment was 55 million euro, and 25% we put together as shareholders, and 75% came from the banks and under involvement of local banks.
Very well. Thank you very much. Exciting case. Thank you for your presentation. And it's time already to hand over to our last couple of presenters. We have Charles Yousif and Sandro Lauri. Who goes first? The floor is yours. 10 minutes, please.
Thank you. Why are we here? My name is Charles Yousif, and I am from the University of Malta. We are participating in an Interreg Europe project, Zero CO2, and part of the works of this project was to identify good practices with regards to the decarbonization of existing buildings. At the beginning of this project, we made a memorandum of understanding with the Energy and Water Agency, who is an energy advisor to the ministry. And this is one of the good practices that we have in Malta. It's a solar photovoltaic communal farm that gives the opportunity to citizens to invest 1, 2, or 3 kilowatt peak energy in this farm, and together they can have green electricity. So what was the challenge? The challenge is that in Malta, being such a small country, 20 by 15 kilometers, many citizens live in apartments with no access to roofs where they can install their own photovoltaic systems. And therefore, in order to decarbonize or reduce their energy bills as well as produce green electricity, one solution is to have this communal large-scale roof or land and invest in a renewable energy source that makes sense. Why solar and not wind? Malta is the first in terms of solar energy potential among all European member states. And also the variation of solar energy from one year to another is the minimum of all member states. The benefits, we are seeing that besides improving the energy performance certification of the participating dwellings, we can also benefit from other issues. For example, technical issues, because if I install a photovoltaic system on my rooftop, then I would depend on other technical persons to fix my broken inverter. If a lightning comes and strikes my panels or breaks them, I have to depend on other people. In this case, everything is centralized within the communal farm, and therefore the co-owners of this farm do not have to worry about improving their technical know-how to make sure that their PV system will take them throughout the expected lifetime of 20 or 25 years. Also, this is a way to create business, to create new jobs. Public-private partnership is something that supports families and indirectly through new jobs. And the last one is to make best use of the limited space that we have. Okay. So if we look quickly on the reservoir, as you can see, it's in a rural area, and the PV panels on top of the reservoir had a very minimal impact on the picturesque area of this reservoir. And essentially, it is almost 1 megawatt photovoltaic system connected to the grid by means of modular inverters. And the idea of the modular inverter is that if one part of this large roof has failed for any reason, the remaining part of the farm will continue operating. The benefit to the co-owners is around 1,550 units of energy per year at 15 cents per kilowatt hours for the first 6 years. And within those first 6 years, all co-owners will have attained the payback period of the initial investment that they have put. From there on, it's simply profit. And the benefit of this system, of this scheme, is also that in case there is change of ownership, this will happen. Here you can see Google Earth's overview of the site. As you might appreciate, part of the roof does not have photovoltaic systems, and Sandro will explain why. But on the other photos, you can see that the PV systems have a very low impact, especially with regards to wind loading, and therefore minimal mechanical or technical interventions were made to this 60-plus-year-old roof. The inverters are modular, they are naturally ventilated, And therefore, as you can see, photovoltaics can be one of the the fastest ways how we can generate green electricity in a very short time. So Sandro, why is the roof not fully electrified with solar energy?
Well, actually, this has to do with the scheme design at the time, which could provide support for photovoltaic. Up to 1 megawatt, it was at the time possible to apply for a fixed feed-in tariff. Once you go beyond 1 megawatt, one would have to go through an auction approach. In view that it was decided that we need to give visibility for the business case, it was better to go for a smaller installation than the maximum possible, at least for the time being, and have a priori the knowledge of the tariff which would apply to support the PV installation. But this doesn't mean that in the future, the remaining area couldn't potentially be also developed now that there are auctions running for different capacities of renewables. A bit on the process, the development process of the installation. Of course, there is a need for planning, permissions. There is an ad hoc, a specific solar farm policy in Malta, which basically identifies the sites which would be considered positively for solar farms and those which would not. So this simplifies a bit the permitting process, because the authority has a clear policy guidelines how to permit or not permit installations. Of course, there is the grid connection, which is important here. In fact, in this case, there was the need to build a new substation to handle this installation, because this was a bit away from the urban centers. Of course, the feed-in tariff process, which had to go through the regulator, which administers the schemes, the tendering process, which to actually buy the system, which was on a procure, install, and maintain basis. So basically, we have the same supplier would procure, install everything, and then maintain the PV farm for its lifetime. And of course, there needs to be a sort of a centralized entity, which was a government entity, which handled all the applications from the households who wanted to contribute and take part in this project, and to also then liaise with the billing company, so that it would eventually, when the money starts coming in from the feed-in tariff, this is distributed amongst the participant households. Of course, one can immediately see that the scheme is a win-win for the three major stakeholders, basically the government, which is increasing its renewable energy targets and its decarbonization targets, the private contractor, increasing green jobs, more work for the private contractor, and of course for the households who now previously couldn't access the benefits of photovoltaic panels, and now they have an indirect access to this green energy. The scheme was fully subscribed in less than 9 months. This was in 2017. And in total, there are 366 households participating in the scheme. Of course, this was, let's call it a pilot scheme. The idea was to have something as a proof of concept, where the government was coordinating the whole thing. But ideally, going forward, this would be scaled up by the private sector. So we sort of, as a government, showed the way forward, and that it was possible to have something of the sort. And we are now hoping that obviously the private sector will react and possibly scale up this concept and use private spaces to involve the households, or possibly the private sector itself, like restaurants, commercial sector, and so on, which do not have access to rooftops, to invest in this in such a communal PV farm. I think that is basically it from our end. I hope I managed to squeeze it in 10 minutes.
Yes, you were very good. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Myriam, please ask your question loud.
Thank you. Thanks a lot for this really interesting presentation. I was just curious, because you mentioned citizens as investors and beneficiaries. How do you organize the ownership? What's the ownership model of your energy community? Because in the EU definitions, the idea is that the citizens are also able to vote and to participate in the decision-making process rather than just being investors. So it would be really interesting to hear how you're organizing this in your community.
Yes, I mean, the idea, to be fair, predates in our framework predates the idea of energy community. So it wasn't. It was a bit of a hybrid thing. So they're not directly owner of the installation. So the households, we call it a contribution towards this installation. So basically, they contribute a sum of money. It's not a legal ownership of the installation, but the government, since it's all money managed by central government, basically guarantees the return then to each household. And the return, the way the return was calculated, the 6 year and the 10 cents, 5 and the 15 cents, was intended to reflect the typical return of a household which would invest, and at that time in schemes which were available for rooftop PV installations. So what we took was exactly the same sort of parameters and benefits, slightly reduced because obviously the households now were not using their own rooftop, so they shouldn't reap exactly the same benefit as a household which actually used its own rooftop, and replicated that in a sort of a virtual, let's call it a virtual installation, which is physical, but from the household perspective, it's a bit of something virtual, which is producing green energy on their behalf.
So it's like statistical transfer of green electricity to their energy bills.
Yeah, it's not technically
reality,
an energy community, but it's a different scheme.
Yeah.
It's like accessing.
That's why the title was not community, but communal. So it's a bit different.
Yes,
it's
yes.
Just groups of people getting together.
Yes, yeah. I think it's excellent. So the public doesn't want to replicate it and waits for the private sector to take it up. Because you don't have any spaces, or because you don't have the human resources, or you just think, or is there already interest from the private sector to replicate the scheme?
From my point of view, I'm not in the government, I'm at the university. Malta succeeds when the private entities come in. We take any sector in Malta, and the success is because the private sector came into the story. Now, if we leave it in the hands of government alone, in my opinion, it diverts the attention of the government, the public authority, from its main duties into managing something completely different that the community should take care of. And if not the community, the private sector within that community, and so on. So from my point of view, leading by example is great. Making it more engaging for government might not be always the best solution.
Yeah, but if I understood your question well, you were asking why this is not being replicated again by the private sector?
No,
by government.
Yeah.
No,
do you have already some private sector takers that want to do it? Because it's an excellent scheme. I think it's a no-brainer. It sounds like the logical thing to do, and to do more of it.
The problem is space.
Yeah.
The problem is space. Land costs in Malta are extremely high. And of course, when one starts doing the math, if they can develop land and into something else, which gives a higher revenue, then that would win. So most of the time is land, is the land availability, which is the main barrier here in Malta.
At the moment, we are doing research for offshore photovoltaics. The potential is great. And the research shows that in that case, the costs of land will be offset because the amount of area belonging to Malta on the sea, on the Mediterranean Sea, is many folds the area of the land. So that could be one way of attracting the private sector to engage the citizens into such projects.
Excellent. I would love to discuss much more with you and with each of you, actually. I would like to ask all the speakers to turn on their cameras. Thank you very much for your excellent contributions. This was really, most entertaining and instructive. I would like to give each of you the floor to state in a couple of sentences your main takeaways from today's webinar. And let's do that in the order of appearance. So Myriam, you go first.
Thank you. I think for me, if anything, we've seen a lot of really great and inspiring examples today that really show how it's possible for municipalities and citizens to work together and that there's a lot of potential there. So for me, I'm just looking forward to continuing to work together towards getting more citizen energy in Europe.
Okay, Alastair?
Yeah, it's just great to see so much happening in this area. Obviously, I only hear what's going on in Devon, and it's just, yeah, it's fantastic to see what's happening in Europe and so much diversification in the way things are being done that gives us all hope for the future, doesn't it?
It does indeed. Daniela, Lorena?
Yes, it was very interesting to hear about other projects. And I also learned that the authorities are very important, that we need more power there for the projects in the regions, and the leadership should demonstrate that inspires to act now. So that's my feedback. Thank you very much.
So from my side, I would love to thank everybody participating with their projects and ideas. Because this makes me really happy. I'm pretty convinced when I hear what's happening across the European Union and UK. Sorry for that. That we are really become able to build up together a bottom-up energy system, because I don't believe personally anymore in a purely top-down system, and when I see it's happening across the Europe, then I even more stronger believe in a bottom-up system, and we're going to make that. And yeah, happy to hear and happy to connect and give any information necessary. Thank you.
Thanks, Lorena. Lars?
Okay, for my part, I would like to point out that it makes a lot of fun to create wind farms together with civil energy cooperatives, because they give you big backwind, and they give you good support that you need as a public utility, because you can't behave directly, or you can't act directly as a to politicians, because you have to be, as a public community or as a public utility, you have to behave on the political way, on the political level. You can't concentrate on one party. You have to be polite. And then it's really good to have an energy cooperative which can give you support. And another claim is, if you want to erect these big wind energy turbines, so we plan turbines of 241 meters of total height in our green. So this area where we are is the Brothers Grimm fairy tale forest area. So most of the fairy tales of the Brothers Grimm have their birthplace in our area. And if you harm this area, this landscape, this fairy tale landscape with wind energy monsters, with big wind energy turbines, you have to offer participation, and it's that what we are doing, and we're doing well with this. We have a good revenue, we have good feedback, and it makes fun.
Yes, to overcome the not in my backyard syndrome. Give everybody
we have them nevertheless. We have them nevertheless, but they can't evolve that strong than in other areas.
I can imagine. Thank you. Sandro and Charles.
Thank you. I take the message from Lars's last slide where he wrote in cooperation with trust. And we can see in today's seminar that wherever you have good will and cooperation, then everybody wins and everybody can achieve the decarbonization target of the EU. My dream is really to have, if we lack land, then we can have a community somewhere else within the European region where we can contribute to it. So it's not just on a very limited space, but this cooperation can also expand and reach out to other regions as well. Thank you.
Thank you all. Oh yeah, Sandro, yes.
Thank you.
Charles said it all. Thank you very much.
I'm so sorry. Okay, ladies, gentlemen, it was a pleasure having you. I hope the audience enjoyed the exchange as much as I did. Thank you very much from the Policy Learning Platform team. Thank you for the audience for your patience and your interest. You will receive automatically by email the recordings and the links to all the presentations and the follow-up page very soon. All right, if you like this, as we close the webinar, there's a little survey. Tell us what we can do better and what you liked. So see you again in another webinar. Otherwise, have a nice afternoon and stay safe. Goodbye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.